there's a little bit of behavior stuff. Then you tried prong collar training. Prong collar training made a big difference. That's good. But then recently there was a bite to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were like or something like that.
Okay.
Still like that,
I see.
But she never really ever done it to me before.
Hmm.
It's just like other people. Like my parents included. There's definitely people like close to her, but
Okay.
never to me. So when she did it to me, I was like, whoa.
Surprise. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Their teeth kind of got me here, but it wasn't like a bite. It was just like her teeth just kind of
Just touched.
yeah.
Yep.
And
Okay.
she's nipped before, like as a warning, but she's never like she did it hard enough to cut him a little bit.
Yeah.
She didn't puncture him, but she so that
And then,
just kind of
and then we live in a big high rise too. So with other dogs, she's just very
Like reactive.
yeah.
yes. It's like she goes
Just a big dog.
yeah. Sometimes she could walk past him. It's like they're over there. There's that rope,
Yeah.
but that far. But if it was like an elevator or close quarters, like a hallway or something.
Sure.
Like an initial reaction, like but then she kind of it's bad. It's like because she used to play with other dogs, so then she's kind of curious. So it's almost like just like I'm nervous, so here's my reaction. But then it's like she settles, and
Okay.
so it would be nice if she could, tolerate other dogs. But I think the big thing for us is like, um, our parents are pretty much our primary care of like watching of watching the animal.
Uh-huh.
And they're getting older, and so I want them to feel a little more secure, like
Okay.
we're not there. Of like if the dog's there, 'cause, we just got married, and so we may want to have
Congratulations.
in the future, and
Uh-huh.
so with that case, we may need like help with her. And so
Yeah.
get her a little bit more like not so reactionary.
I see.
I feel like she's almost there. It's just I think we're lost on a couple things to do.
How old are your parents?
60s.
60s?
Yeah.
Okay. And they're mobile? Like they can
Yeah.
move like
My parents are
normally?
really good with her. My dad's like one of those like alpha, like just all dogs and things bow down to him.
Sure.
Personality, which is really good for her. And then your parents are very nervous, so I don't know if there's much if they're going to watch her that much moving forward. But
Okay.
my parents, I'd like for them to have some tools to handle her.
Um,
They're very mobile.
okay. Um, is there like any other things that you're trying to accomplish? So we have the reactivity. We have the what happened, the incident with you, right? Kind of that it's a little bit maybe nervous stuff. I'll explain more on that in a moment. But anything else that you're trying to accomplish?
I think the big thing is like so we have a process for like when our friends come over. So like we go outside the apartment, we go in together. She gets lots of treats from them, and then normally she's pretty good with that. And then we just sort of leave her in her doggy bed. And so if she barks once in a while, she doesn't leave that's her place to
Mm-hmm.
do that. So that makes it manageable.
Mm-hmm.
When we have people that come that are unexpected, or like contractor, it's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
bed, but she's just going nuts the whole time. And
Okay.
Like aggressive barking, pulling on the prong collar.
Yeah. So maybe if there were some tools for that, like if I go into another room with her and sit with her, even if there's somebody there, she will be calm. But sometimes we both need to talk to the person.
Yeah.
Like even if I'm holding her, just find a way to get her not not make them afraid she's gonna bite them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Anything else? Obedience wise, does she?
Um, she can kind of be a pick and chooser. Like
Okay.
she's really picky with food too. So if we have a really good treat she likes, she's the perfect dog. But she gets bored really quickly. So I mean that's one of her favorite ones. She's just leaving on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
especially if she's stressed or
Yeah.
go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the prong collar's been really good if you got it on and we're holding the leash. She'll listen, but
Mm-hmm.
that's sometimes not always like.
Yeah, I mean the dog thing is a big one because when she was younger, I don't think I'd ever take her to a dog park again. But I mean, like I used to take her to dog parks. She used to run around with all the dogs and stuff, loved them, and
Mm-hmm.
now it's like it's very
certain dogs. Like she used to be like
Okay.
best friend. Sorry, best friend with like you.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing.
Okay.
You know, when we walk her down the hallway,
Mhm.
many dogs in the building. You know, so that's like number one thing for me is that no, you know, we did this. I've hired 3, 4 other trainers in our life, and
Mhm.
just one thing that I could never kind of shake from her was kind of walking past the dog and
Sure.
not worried that she's not gonna bite the crap out of him.
So she's social when you first got her, right? And then
yeah.
at what point or at what age did you notice the shift?
I think around. So I got her when she was 6 months old from Paws.
Okay.
And they got her from like a hurricane or something like that. And,
Sure.
even then they didn't tell me yet, but on the form they were like, we have to walk her with like 2 leashes or something because she's super crazy and all this stuff, you know. But she was just sleeping when I saw her, so I was like, oh, it's a nice calm dog.
Yeah, that's usually how that goes. That's how they get you.
But yeah, I was I lived in a little apartment complex in the suburbs, and there was like a little thing for the, you know, uh, building, but it wasn't a big building, so it was not so many dogs that come around there, so I could play with them. And then when she was around 2 or 3 years old, I took her to big dog park, which
Mhm.
is like, anyone in the area can just go to. And I think, and she got into it with a few dogs, and I
Hmm.
when I started running up and down the field like a coach or something, following.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, yeah, it's just not good, And
Yeah.
then it just kind of got worse.
In those scuffles, were they just scuffles or were there like bites, like any punctures?
Bites because I would get to her in time, but it would be like a lot of this and like that,
Okay.
like you see your, yeah.
Do you remember if she was charging the dog and then doing that, or was the dog charging her or chasing her and then she would do that?
I think it's mostly just like the nose, they can put their nose to each other,
Yeah.
and also the eyes get like really
Yeah.
wide,
Okay.
and it's almost like a what? You want to do something? You want to do something?
Yeah.
And I was,
That's a great impression.
Had a lot of years to perfect.
My parents have a small little Shih Tzu.
Yeah.
And sometimes he, will like growl at her, walk up to her, and like otherwise she just completely ignores him. But then
Mhm.
they'll kind of get into it a little bit, and so that's I think it is like when they're like, well, because we at the other border, we are the trainer too. She was a prong caller. She could do like a one-on-one session with like some smaller dogs. My
Mhm.
golden, she got along really great. I think it's like the demeanor of the dog when
Sure.
to interface. She doesn't
Yeah.
want to.
Okay. Um, Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, it's a lot of good information. How'd you guys find us?
I found you online, and then I watched a lot of your videos,
Okay.
consultations, and it seemed like you handle dogs that actually like are kind of aggressive and have some
Yeah.
problems. So
Yeah.
that's how I found you.
Okay. So yeah, I built my career on behavior cases, aggression, anxiety, fear, nervousness, reactivity. It's like what I'm known for. We do everything, but like I don't get a lot of puppies because puppies are a lot of work for a little return. And usually I just wait till the puppy, like I'll tell the owner, come back when they're 6 months and we can do big boy, big girl training. And then by that point, the puppy's driven them crazy enough that they're like, okay, we're ready for some serious training, My preference is like cases like this. Okay. So the reactivity I'm not worried about. Okay. Reactivity is one of the easiest things to address. Pending you are following the instructions. That's always what holds people back. Okay. And I'll explain everything. Everything's very logical. Everything's very step by step. Okay. That's the easiest thing. The dog park thing, unfortunately, I cannot guarantee, but there are some things that we can do. Okay. So typically when people get their dogs as puppies or whatever, there's going to be three periods in that dog's life where we get personality shifts: 6 months, a year, and 2 years. Okay, so that's why I asked. I said, at what point did you notice this? Yeah, you said 2 to 3 years, exactly. So 6 months, if you're familiar with children, is like terrible two's brain, teenager body. A year we have teenager brain, adult body. At 2 years we have adult dog. Okay, so like let's say you got her at 2 months. And then at 6 months around-ish, you'll go like, yeah, so we start to see the reactivity, or that's where we start to see she wasn't as playful anymore, right? Or it might happen in a year, it might happen in 2 years. It can also happen outside of those time frames, but those are the most common. Also, what can happen is like you take your dog to a dog park at a year, the dog's attacked by another dog, it's mishandled, and the situation causes distrust. And like a light switch, the next day the dog will now be dog reactive or dog aggressive. Okay. It can also happen. Like I had a client that was a golden doodle, completely social. He was like 4 to 5 years old. Was attacked by an off-leash dog one day walking in the neighborhood, and like a switch, the next day he was just completely dog aggressive, dog reactive. Okay. And I told her, I was like, it's a possibility he can come back to who he was, meaning social, because originally he was social for 4 to 5 years. I said, or there just might be too much distrust that he won't be social with every dog like he was before, but if you're socializing him correctly, he can have a group of friends again. Okay, and that's like where I would put your dog. Okay, um, and I show you how to correctly introduce your dog to another dog. I only care about dogs your dog would see uh, regularly. Your friend's dog, your family's dog, neighbor's dog, right? Because we can build a relationship there, so to speak. Okay. Whereas when you get the random dog on the street or the random dog at a dog park, it's very involved that I don't expect the random stranger to just follow all these instructions, right? But definitely with friends and family and stuff, we can get her to have some friends. Okay. Um, the other thing about dog parks is they're unregulated, right? So what she did actually makes perfect sense to me, and I'm going to explain in a little bit. The obedience stuff also not a problem. Prong collar is a great tool. I love prong collar. We use it. I don't really use it so much with my clients anymore because it takes too much technical skill. Okay. Uh, the most common thing that I would come across in the past was like if I had a male female relate couple, typically the male would correct more firmer than the female, right? Just because of strength, right? So if they had a German Shepherd with a thick coat of fur, the husband might be able to get enough of a correction in that the dog would be like, oh, okay. But the wife, even though she gave it her best shot, usually not able to replicate that level of strength, right? And then you would see that where the dog would be submissive to the dad, but not the mom, right? So that's why we use remote collar, which I'm assuming you're aware of, right? Because remote collar, no matter who has the remote, if you press it at 25, if she presses it at 25, if your parents press it at 25, it's the same across the board. So we don't have that discrepancy anymore. Okay. It can also compensate for soft personalities. Okay. So if I have a client, and it happens with couples because there's usually one person that's more assertive than the other person, and sometimes the disparagement can be great, is that it's not uncommon to see that the more passive person has a higher number than the more assertive person. Does that make sense? Because it's making up for that personality difference there. So remote collar, if you do research on it on its own, like you'll see a lot of stuff, especially from the positive only front. They'll say trainers like myself are lazy because we're taking the shortcut to training, that you're torturing the dog, you're electrocuting the dog, all these things, and that's completely incorrect. Okay. I don't need uh, remote collar for a majority of the dogs that I train. Okay. I don't need it. The client needs it. Okay. So like I run a structured kennel. Today, probably at this time, probably had like 40 dogs, right? And they're all right there.
Really?
Yeah. You'll hear the occasional bark.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've trained a good chunk of them, but we've also not trained another good chunk of them, right? But they all are upheld to the same rule, and that's no barking. Okay. No whining, no anxiety, no craziness. Okay. So, because,
Street
yeah,
dogs.
yeah. Um, but it's because I understand dog behavior. I know what I'm doing. I don't need the tool. If I needed the tool, then a requirement would be every dog here would have to be on it. Does that make sense? I get staff, like I got Nathan, who's been with us for 4 months. He's a great staff member. Um, but I need something that even a kid who just wants a summer job from college or whatever, that can pick up on it and replicate it, but not become me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So, um, remote collar is the best training tool. It's just the stigma around it is what is how it kind of deters people from using it. Even trainers, a lot of trainers will use it as a last resort. And again, it's just that the way the public perceives it. I've built my career over the past, 12 to 14 years I've been training dogs on remote collar. Okay. Every dog that comes here for training over 6 months is on a remote collar, guaranteed. I've had a small handful of people go like, "Oh, Jesse, like I'll pay your rate, but I don't want you to only use food, or I want you to only use prong collar," and I just tell them no.
Yeah,
I go because what you pay and what you'll get result wise with these other methods is far apart. Does that make sense? So, and I tell my clients, I'm like, it's lifelong training in the sense that once you learn it and understand it, I very rarely, if ever, get people coming back needing more training. Okay. A lot of times they'll just shoot me an email and I'll just email them back, like, here's the answer. And they'll figure it out majority of the time. Every now and then they can't figure it out. Then I go, now you can book your lesson and I'll help you or whatever. I've even had some clients. I have a lady right now, which kind of sucks for me, but I trained her for her. She has 4 labs. Okay. One lab was being a problem. Trained him. He's doing great. She had 2 puppy labs that she was going to send here for 2 board and trains. She started the training on her own, and she's like, "Jesse, it's going great." I'm like, "Damn, that's like that's $8,000 I could have had, right?" But I'm like, "Great, like that's what I like to hear. That you're getting it and it's clicking and great." You not so good for me, okay? So yeah, remote collar, in my opinion, is the best training tool. Plus, right off the bat, you get off-leash control.
Yeah.
It's the only tool, in my opinion, and technically speaking, that can give you off-leash control. Because the moment you unclip that leash from your prong, the moment the food, the rewards in the environment outweigh the value of the food in your hand, everything goes out the window. But with remote collar, up to a mile away, I have contact with the dog. So if they decide to ignore me, I can reinforce.
I think like when I was hearing you explain it too, like it's really helpful because I mean people think the prong collar is mean, but she's aggressive. Like I don't want her.
Sure.
It's sort of out of our. It helps her in control, and then to your point, like as soon as we clip it on the prong collar, she's good. Or as soon as like, but then when it's not on, then we're kind of out of control. And like, I'm comfortable with it. And I can run up and I can clip this on when she's showing me her teeth or something. When I'm trying to get her to move, I can
Mm,
put the leash on. It's fine because I know her and she knows me. But my parents aren't going to be able to, would be more nervous about doing that
hmm
if they needed to. And so I think I really like the idea of the
Remote collar, sure. The
Hmm?
uh, so do you know why the prong collar looks like that?
to warn people.
Uh-uh.
It's meant to mimic a dog bite.
It's went to what?
Mimic a dog bite.
Dog.
Yeah, that's why it looks like teeth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many times people come here. Um, so what I'm gonna have you do is shift your the prongs to the bottom of her neck so that the chain's on the top of her neck. Yeah, just like that. Okay. And then the next time she vocalizes, you're not gonna say anything. You're just gonna pull up on the prong, and once that happens, I'll give you more instruction. Okay. Yeah, it's meant to mimic a dog bite. Yep, up and now relax. Do it from your left hand. Yeah, and now relax. Good. It's meant to mimic a dog bite. Okay, straight up. Very good. Um, you'd be surprised how many times I get people that come here with their dogs on prong collars and they don't know that. Okay. They're like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like, it's literally designed to do what another dog would do to your dog.
Wow.
And your dog is giving prime example.
Yeah.
Right. So at the park that one time, right, when you said a dog was coming up and
Yeah.
right, pull her back, pull her, and then up on your prong, and then relax. Um, so humans are taught that physicality is bad. Okay. Um, to try to avoid physical confrontation, and I agree to a degree. Okay.
Yeah.
Like if someone disagreed with me, where I was like, the sky is blue, and they're like, it's purple, right? I wouldn't go and punch them. I understand that. If something threatens me and or my wife or our soon to come newborn baby, I will for sure get physical to protect themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So dogs are primal. They do not understand that you can dial 911 and that someone supposedly should come and help you. You'd be surprised how many times cops don't show up. You know, but that's the way it's supposed to work, right? Cops are supposed to show up, and they're supposed to help kind of be the third party that resolves the situation, right? Whereas in the animal world, uh, if they feel threatened, they're gonna jump to physicality because it's kill or be killed, right? Dog eat dog, so to speak, right? So they're more likely to become confrontational because of that, right? So your dog doesn't understand the world like we understand the world, okay? So I think it's very interesting that like people, like if they see a mother dog correct the puppy, they go, "Oh, that's a correction. She's just teaching the puppy manners." I go, "That is correct." But then if a human corrects the puppy, the human is now abusive.
Yeah.
The human is now inhumane, and should not be have that puppy. It's interesting, right? But that's why dogs have so many issues nowadays. Because what happens is puppies as young as 3 to 4 weeks are being corrected by their other puppies, by the mother, teaching boundaries. And then at 8 weeks, they go into a home, and the humans are no longer giving them those physical corrections like the other puppies and dogs are. So then the puppy's getting away with a bunch of stuff, and this happens for a year, 2 years, and then all of a sudden it's a problem at 2 to 3 years old, 6 years old. You know, I've had dogs as old as 12 years old come in because of behavioral stuff, right? And it's because no one's giving them consequence that they understand. Instead, we're taught to put them in timeout, put them in their kennel, ignore them, yelp really loudly, redirect them to a treat, redirect them to a toy. All these things that dogs don't do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Question,
So
so?
when somebody comes in the apartment, you hit just press the.
It's a little bit more in depth.
Okay.
Technically speaking, you could. But the reason why, what makes a difference there is that the person that's coming in, we care about.
Sorry.
You're okay. The person that's coming in, we care about. Okay. Ideally, we'd like the dog to like the person.
Right.
Okay. So if you're just zapping her, so to speak, you're bless you. You're addressing the symptom, allergies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I took my Claritin D.
We were in Wisconsin yesterday, and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
Grass. Everything.
I can turn these down. Maybe it's
Oh,
the.
no, it's totally fine.
Okay.
It's that time of year for me.
Yeah, no, I had my fifth Claritin D this week, so I get you. Oh yeah. So if you were to correct the barking at the door, right? Barking is not the problem. Do you know what the problem is?
That she's fearful or territorial about the place.
Yes.
Yeah, place. So, yeah,
Yes.
she'll ride the elevator with the contractors, and the contractors will be like,
Yeah,
Wow,
she's
she's
very
like-
friendly to people
she's-
outside the house.
"Yeah, she's super sweet with
Mhm.
the with that," and she'll come in the apartment,
Mhm.
and it's not like
Yep.
it's like she turns into this like this crazy
Yes.
dog. It's crazy.
Yes. Because you got to remember she's primal.
Yeah.
Right. So have you ever seen there's a map of 3 different like wolf packs that they trace, like green, red, blue, and there is very, very little crossover. Very little, right? It's unnatural in the animal world to have guests.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So your dog is going, what is she doing in the home?
Yeah.
You're the home,
Yeah.
right? Grandma, grandpa are the home. They're the regular, right? So if you start correcting the barking or the territorial behavior of the person entering, you're just addressing the symptom. We need to communicate to her that the person being coming in is indeed being invited in.
Yeah.
Okay, and that hurt. Like, thanks for letting me know, but we're in control now. You do not need to be this way. Okay, so a lot of the stuff that people deal with, like the leash reactivity, okay, is a symptom.
Yeah.
It's a problem, but it's not the problem, and that's how most humans think, right? My dog is reactive. I need to that's the problem I need to fix. So then they'll go out and they'll buy the remote collar on their own or whatever, and they'll zap the dog, but they're not addressing the root, and that's what we need to do is always address the root.
Yeah.
Okay, so the issue with the face, okay, is I always tell everybody because I get this so much. They go, Jesse, my dog's not aggressive. They've never bit anybody. They're just reactive or whatever. I go, not yet. You've just not seen your dog put in a situation where they felt they needed to go to that extent.
Yeah.
Okay. Happens all the time. My dog's not aggressive. Why do they need these tools? I go, it's not about aggressive or not aggressive. Like it's just the best training there is with this tool, right? But they also, it's funny because like if someone told you, oh, I never get angry, would you believe them? No, that's
Yeah.
fucking impossible,
Yeah.
right? You're gonna get angry at some point. So I think it's interesting with dogs that people go like, oh, my dog's not aggressive. Like it's a characteristic. It's not. Everybody can become aggressive if put in that particular situation, right? So here, uh, if you notice, there's a similarity between what was happening at the dog park and what you were doing when you got nipped.
What was happening at the dog park? What I was doing? Uh, oh, I was. I don't know what.
Yes, you were in her face.
Yeah.
You're in her face. Yes, yes.
Yeah, because it starts off even like some dogs she'll be really friendly. I think she's about to be really friendly with, and she'll get like nose to nose with them.
Mhm.
Her tail will start wagging, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
same thing. I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? You
So
know?
tail wag doesn't always mean happy.
Yeah.
You guys familiar with that? Okay. So yeah. So tail wag doesn't always mean happy. You have to read it according to the context. Okay. So in that moment, so that's most likely what we would a nervous wag. Okay. So humans greet face to face. Hi, how are you? Right? Dogs don't. They shouldn't at least. It's not natural to them. Dogs greet nose to butt, like a yin yang. When you greet face to face, it's confrontational, right? So if people get in an argument, what happens?
Get in each other's face.
Yes, that's confrontation, right? And sometimes, and if you go on YouTube, you'll watch stuff, right, where a person will start pursuing and you'll see a person backing away because that person doesn't want the confrontation, right? They'll do this. I'm not a threat. Same thing for dogs. You'll see a dog pursue, you'll see a dog back away. It's all the same stuff, okay? So if she's here and the dog is here and neither is giving in and she's going, I'm getting nervous and uncomfortable, right? It's if she's reacting first because she's pull her in and then up on the collar. Um, to scare that dog away if she's perceiving threat. Uh, this is also most likely what's triggering the reactivity. When you go out into the world and you see a person walking their dog, what do you think?
Just trained dog.
Or I guess about Remy, I just try to
Oh,
walk away around him.
Yeah, we try and cross. We try and cross.
No, but like that person, when you see them walking their dog, what do you think about them? Do you think they're a threat?
No.
No. Do you think that they're just another person enjoying the beautiful day walking their dog?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your dog doesn't.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Your dog goes threat, potential threat. So then reactivity to scare that threat away. Does that make sense? So there's four, what I call like the four primary like physical responses: fight, flight, avoidance, submission. Have you heard those terms before? Okay. If you're in a burning building, do you want to stay or get out? Get out. Which one of those four would those be? Flight, right? The first two are always fight or flight. Okay, so you can't fight the fire unless you're a firefighter. So then flight's your next option, right? For your dog, if the first two instincts are fight or flight, okay, and your dog is on a leash, which one of those is removed?
Fight. Well, she's gonna fight. Right?
Why is she going to fight?
Because she can't leave.
Yes, she can't run. So she goes fight.
You know what's funny too about that is I've always noticed that she's more. I have a better chance of her, which I don't take this chance anymore. But like, I mean, she's always has a chance of being more friendly when she's off the leash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she has the potential to escape.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you're not, I literally just had a consult like this past weekend. Same thing. They're like, Jesse, I don't get it. You know, it's a German Shepherd, big bark, very reactive, but on leash, completely social. Yes, completely social. And I said, yes, because reactivity doesn't mean aggression.
Yeah.
Reactivity can also mean frustration, or reactivity can be like, I'm scared. And you have to think that you give your dog something to protect.
Well, and there was also like a big kind of learning curve with me because I never had a pet before.
Okay.
In my whole my life before.
Sure.
So when I got her, it was that you think you're on anxiety medication, which is actually a medic. I don't remember what it's called. It was just something to like pretty much sedate her almost. You
Yeah.
know? So and then on and just medication. And what's like that Marissa where you got her off all that stuff because she grew up with dogs. That's not right. You know?
Yeah. So my thing about medication is, one, dogs don't medicate each other. Okay. Two, it doesn't do anything.
What about CBD? Do you like
CBD to like calm them down. So I'm not against everything. I'm against using it as a first resort.
Yeah.
But if you go to the vet, that's always what they're going to tell you. Oh, medicate your dog.
Yeah.
So here's an example. I had an employee here, so I used to work at a different daycare, and there was a puppy. It was like a 2 to 3 month old puppy, rambunctious puppy, and was driving the parents nuts. They went to the veterinarian. Guess what the veterinarian did?
Medicated.
Yeah. And she said she felt so bad because the puppy came to daycare and it was just like this in the corner.
Yeah, that's
It was so out of it. And I was like, that's messed up, right? So that puppy just needs to be corrected. Another dog, that's what the other dog would have done. She's like, boop, you're not going to do that. But because no one was doing that, they go, let's medicate the puppy. And I think that's more screwed up. Okay. That's just my personal opinion. So I'm not against medication. I'm against it as the first resort. And in some cases, I go, it's completely unnecessary. That's just lazy parents and a irresponsible veterinarian to me. Okay. I had a dog who came here for training, and you can find his video on my social media. His name is Doug. He's a pit bull. It's a little solid little barrel. One of the worst cases I ever had. Showed up on gabapentin, trazodone, and fluoxetine. Okay.
Yeah, fluoxetine, that was the one.
Yeah. He was on all 3 drugs, and he was still trying to attack me during the consultation. So she's like, what do you think about drugs? I'm like, well, are they working right now? And she's like, no. Then I go, it's not doing anything. And he was on all 3 drugs. Okay.
Stop putting her on trazodone before we took her in, because they can make them more aggressive too.
Interesting.
When they're out of it.
They're out of it, yeah. And that's my thing too. I was like, you don't know how the dog feels. Like I have a friend who has anxiety, who used to take anxiety medication, and he said he didn't like it because the way it made him feel. It was worse than the anxiety. So now he's just like, I just learned to deal with the anxiety, you know? And I go, yeah, that's what we do, is we help the dog learn how to handle their anxiety, nervousness, fear, or whatever. But then I teach the owner how to then handle and live with the dog that has nervousness, fear, anxiety, aggression. It's those 2 things together, right? And maybe every now and then a dog needs a little bit of more edge taken off. Then I go, that's on the owner. I never just tell people put your dogs on drugs. That's not my place. But in my experience, I've not seen it do anything. Okay. Now, I will admit that I'm probably biased because the dogs that I get are already on these drugs and they're not working. You know, maybe for those people with that puppy, maybe it was working for them. But I look at that and I go, no, it's not. It's just putting the puppy in a sedated state. It's not healthy. Okay. So, so that face to face is forcing confrontation on the dog, even though it's you. Okay. Um, that's where I start to say there's limitations. Okay. I'm not going to tell you that, yes, one day you could put your face in your dog's face and they're not going to bite you, because that's irresponsible and me putting you in harm's way. Your dog is telling you something and she's saying, hey, this is too much. Okay. I mean, I love my wife. I've been together 4 years. We have a baby coming up, right? But sometimes I need space, right? And sometimes she needs space from me, right? Same thing for the dog. Does that make sense? So straight up, very good. Okay, same thing for the dog. Um, and because everything that I'm reading here in terms of her demeanor, like she seems very stable. Okay, now I'm sure she can go to stress and you see these behaviors, absolutely. But I get dogs that come here and they're like panting like crazy up on your leash. They're salivating, they're well-eyed, right? Like there's clear, like she's chilling out. She's responding well to the prong collar, right? Very little effort. Yep. Okay. She's getting antsy here because you're not allowing her to do what she wants to do, which is to move, but this is normal.
Yeah.
Okay. So, um,
Sometimes with teeth.
snag. Yeah. I know it's cute. So, children, okay, it's very important. Is It is not uncommon that dogs don't like kids up in your prong. There you go. Okay, that don't like it.
Really quick.
Sure.
I noticed you're not saying the word no at all, or you're not like reinforcing like a verbal command when you're um when you're using the prong collar, or you know, do you do that with the remote collar? Like, is that purposeful?
Yeah.
You also do that with remotes as well.
The reason why I don't say no is it doesn't mean anything until you make it mean something, right? Plus, people naturally talk. We're doing it right now. We're more inclined to use the words than we are to use tools that actually communicate something to the dog. right? So I want your dog to calm down. What is she doing? Yeah, she's calming down. Now, is she getting up every now and then? Absolutely. Because um, she's used to doing what she usually does and is moving around or whatever, right? Maybe bark out of frustration. And I'm countering her through the pressure. And I'm not saying no. I'm not saying settle. I'm not saying sit her down because I don't care about that stuff. I just want you to relax and the dog will do the rest himself. Dogs are simple. Humans make things complicated.
Yeah.
Okay. And I come from Cesar Milan methodology. You familiar with Cesar Milan, the dog whisperer? He was my first teacher in the sense that when I first became a trainer, she might poke her head out, but that's my OG. He's the reason why I became a trainer, Zena. Um, is I watched and rewatched the first 5 seasons of the original Dog Whisperer show over and over again 3 times. I would rewind and rewatch. And I'd go out and I volunteer at a humane society in Texas, and I would replicate what I learned for literally 4 to 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday, with all the dogs there. So I'm very good with the instinctual stuff. I'm very good with again, not needing these tools. I can do it all myself using CML methodology. It's just complicated or more difficult for the average dog owner because it's a very high level skill. Whereas remote collar is simplified. It can close the gap in a lot of the stuff that people can't naturally do. Okay, so is all that stuff kind of making sense? Yeah. So I take into account what you want and need, and I also take into account what the dog wants and needs, and it's a balance. Okay, so going back with the children, it's not uncommon that dogs have an adverse reaction to children or babies. Okay, if not when the baby comes home and is crying because it sounds like a dying animal, right? Sometimes it'll trigger prey drive. It's rare, but it can happen. But typically, what we see is that when the baby starts to crawl and become mobile, is when the dog starts to have issues. Okay, and I would predict your dog would have issues. Okay, because usually loud nervous dogs have problem with that. Okay, so the reason is dogs mature very quickly. By 2 months, they're running around, romping around, jumping, biting things, right? Probably, if they see a squirrel, they're gonna chase a squirrel. They have prey drive already, right? And a year you have adult dog, and we're not adults technically speaking until 18, right? So that slow growth process is unnatural to dogs. So at 6 months ish, I think, is when the baby starts to crawl or whatever. The dog starts to growl, and they're saying, "This bothers me. This is not. You were sitting still for the past 6 months, and now you're moving. What's going on?" Does that make sense? So then, like, fast forward, they get comfortable with the crawling. Next thing you know, baby's trying to walk, and the dog's like, "Wait a minute, you were just crawling a few months ago, right?" So typically, what I recommend to clients is I always just promote coexistence. There is no child-dog interaction until the child understands the concept of gentle and be nice, okay, which is usually 2 to 3 years into a child's growth process, okay? Because typically, and I've had some pretty aggressive dogs, um, by that point, there's enough coexistence for a period of time, and we've passed all the growth processes for the kids for the most part, that the dog goes, "You're a part of the family," and they'll be more tolerant, more accepting. Okay, however, it does not mean if you try to invite the child to pet your dog that the dog would be accepting of that. They're just accepting of the coexisting.
Yeah.
Okay, so then if that ends up happening, I'll tell the client, like, it's going to be a balance of you have to teach your child boundaries with your own dog, and then boundaries with the dog towards the child, and that's how you get the both. Okay, I have another client, coincidentally Beagle, um, actually bit their kid in the head. Okay, thankfully nothing happened, and it wasn't because of what I told them. It's because the lack of doing what I told them. Is thankfully the dog was muzzled. Okay, I told them keep this dog muzzled. There's a discrepancy because the wife is very, yep, pull in, is very strict. The husband is very lax and like loves the dog so much. I'm like, dude, this dog just tried to bite your kid, and it's an interesting dynamic there. Yes. So, but the baby was crawling. They had their dog on place, right? No barriers. And I kept telling them, if this happens, you have to redirect your child if you're not going to use barriers and also muzzle your dog. Okay, so thankfully they followed the muzzling, and they let the kid get too close, and then the dad was just like, let's see what happens, right? And the dog charged the kid, tried to bite him, got a little nick, just because it's a basket style muzzle. No real harm. Okay. And I was just like looking at him like, really, dude? You know, like there's a couple things that can happen here. One, if you're testing boundaries with the dog muzzled, sooner or later it's gonna happen with the dog unmuzzled. I already know that with the human. That's just human stuff, right? Which is why I'm so precautious with children and dogs, because I've seen a lot of bad bites throughout the years, and I'll put up a lot of uh, precautionary measures, you know, because I also know that people become complacent and they go, I've seen so much progress. And I go, yes, but you've seen progress and you've kept progress because you're being strict.
Yes. And I wonder too, like with that, well, I mean, when I was a kid, my dog, and they're just little dogs, like bit me in the face, like, um, Bentley, our little Shih Tzu, tries to bite every child that comes in and plays with him.
Mhm.
So, like, I know it happens even with small dogs, so I think we would be very strict. I think something sometimes we struggle with is like she's gotten very good with
Mhm.
all the training we've done,
Mhm.
and so then like I guess managing the boundaries of like other people, where like I don't want them to be afraid of her when they come in because I know she does better when they're
Yeah.
but then some people are like, oh, you must be crazy fine with them, and so then they kind of push these boundaries. Um, wondering if you like have people come in afraid, but also like just
Also
like
respecting.
a bit afraid, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm I'm not worried about the people that are afraid.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the people that are not afraid. Okay. So there's two reasons.
Yeah.
One day, they're not dog whisperers. Okay. Like I said, like you were surprised when your dog nipped you in the face, right? And that was a correctional bite. If your dog wanted to nail you, like she would have. Okay. So that's always one thing that I assess is the intensity and the damage of the bite. So like this is a dog bite here. Okay. This is a Great Dane. It's 10 stitches. Okay. He didn't want to go in a kennel. That's all it was. This is the first time he bit anybody, the last time he bit anybody. This happened in 2019, November. We trained him afterwards, no problem. It was just, he freaked out. He had never been put in a kennel before. And his way to stop me was biting my hand, right? Is two things. One, they're putting themselves in harm's way potentially because they're even bypassing what the dog is saying, right? The dog's saying, I'm uncomfortable, right? Then I go like, well, that's just means to the dog. Two, they're also disrespecting your house rules. So me, personally, I go, if you're not going to listen to my rules, you're not coming to my home.
Yeah. So so should they like not? Cause we've been telling people just don't make that I guess what
Yeah,
you
I think what we've normally been saying is like, you can pet her, she'll come up and we give them treats to give her.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stare into her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Yeah.
I try to keep her in her dog bed. And I think I just need to be more assertive of that because sometimes people will be like, no, let her sit on the couch. But I'm like, but then she's territorial on the couch.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have so that's a two-part thing because we have to address the territorial behavior, and then I have a socialization exercise which can help build trust. Okay. But definitely, like if someone's completely bypassing your rules and boundaries in your own home
Yeah.
that you pay the rent or mortgage for, I just go
Yeah.
leave. That's me. Okay. Because my job is also just to empower people, because unfortunately, especially with dogs, like there's some people that just think it's their God-given right to touch any dog that they see.
Yeah.
And I go, that's not like I wouldn't want some random stranger touching me on the street,
Yeah.
right? So at the same time, advocating for your dog. It's a balance. Like I said, you have what you need and want, and so does your dog. And I'm right in the middle of those things because it's fair to expect a dog to tolerate all of that
Yeah.
when we wouldn't expect a human to do it. Like, I tell people, like, treat the dog like your kid. Would you let any random stranger touch your kid? The answer I get is always like, God, no. I'm like, well, there you go. Like, don't let it happen with your dog, right? Some dogs are great. They love it. They're social butterflies. Some dogs are not. Okay. So, in terms of how all this stuff works, length of time and what I would put you under in terms of like what program is, I would suggest in person. In person, you learn the most. Obviously, this is your dog. I already know how to do this stuff. Um, is the more you're wanting to accomplish, the longer it's going to take. Okay. So the first thing we always have to teach is heel. Heel helps address leash pulling and leash reactivity. Bless you. Okay, which are the two most common things that we deal with here: leash pulling, leash reactivity. Okay, heel also helps set the foundation for e-collar, because it's something that we do like 3 times a day, 7 days a week. Most people walk their dogs unless they have access to a yard. So that's 3 times a day, 7 days a week. You're practicing and rehearsing this exercise. Okay, yep. Um, the third class would be like a variable in the sense that if you're still struggling with leash reactivity, then I would have a class on the leash reactivity itself, which would be the third one. Otherwise, I would anticipate that the leash reactivity would probably be done by the second class. Okay, you'd be surprised how fast this works. The third class, if reactivity is going good, or actually I'll just play it that way. I'll do 2 on heel, 1 on reactivity. Obviously, you want to have people come over, right? That would be the in-home. If you're focused on trying to get her to socialize with people, that would be class 5. Okay. Class 6, I would leave as a variable in the sense of, is there anything you want to cover? Okay. Now there's more stuff that I heard, but that's like I'm me focusing like on the very important stuff. If you do longer, like a 9 or a 12, so we have 2 on heel, we have maybe a class on reactivity, we have the in-home, we have human socialization, we have dog socialization. Uh, Also, that reactivity class would most likely be because she says she's territorial over the couch or something, right? Stuff like that. It's a class on how do we address behavior, and then you just start doing it. Okay. So we have 2 on heel, the behavior class, in home, people, dogs. The remaining, so then we got at 6. Um, Most likely tighten up on obedience. Make sure we get a good recall. Recall should be off leash reliable. That gives yourself and your dog so much more freedom because now you're not restricted to like only fenced in areas where typically only dog parks are fenced in. So then if you go to the park like on the lakefront, tons of open space.
Would be a dream.
Yeah, that would be an option.
Yeah.
I'd most likely review place with her with remote collar. This would allow you to do like restaurants and stuff. So that brings us to 8 classes. Those are like the 3 primary commands straight up. Yep, good. Um, which still leaves us 4 classes left over. And those 4 classes I would look at as if you're still struggling with something behaviorally, maybe you need a review on like guests coming over or whatever, we can always do that. If everything's going very well and progressing nicely, we can advance her training to an off-leash level. Okay. Heel, so all commands, sit, stay, down, come, place, heel, so 6 commands, are meant to be functional. They're meant to be performed. They're meant to let you live your life with your dog. Nowadays, they're kind of looked at as cute tricks that your dog does to get treats. Okay. If it's roll over, give me paw, treats away, I don't care. But sit, stay, down, come, place, heel are all meant to be functional. Okay. And they can all be built to an off-leash level if the owner wants. Okay. Now, we have some behaviors to work on. So I don't imagine we're going to cover all 6 commands to an off-leash level because we were factoring in that a lot of those classes are going to be used towards behavioral stuff. But if we can get an off-leash heel, off-leash recall, and an off-leash stationary command, those 3 things allow you to do a ton of things with your dog. Okay.
That would be amazing. We have this big yard and I have, she likes to run and exercise because she can go pretty fast, but she just leaves and doesn't care.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's not, so now we have like a really, really long leash. We try to like let
Oh
her
yeah. Yeah.
get free with, but
Yep.
it'd be so much good exercise for her to be able to be off leash.
Yeah. No. You and if does she have prey drives? Girls, rabbits, birds? No prey drive. Okay, that's funny.
Is that what that?
She doesn't go for rabbits, squirrels.
Oh no, no.
Yeah.
No,
Our
yeah.
little dog does.
Does yeah.
Next to each other.
My Chihuahua has the greatest prey drive of all my dogs. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that we want to factor in is your parents,
Yeah.
right? So anybody who's going to be a handler is welcome to attend the classes. Okay. However, I will focus on the primary handlers first. Okay. So if they want to come in, plus I film the lessons and I'll send you the video link. And if you're like, hey ma, here dad, here's the training lesson. They can watch it so they can learn what you're learning. They just may not get their hands on, but they're welcome on one of those classes to come in and you're like, hey Jesse, I want you to work with my parents today. Well, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're not paying for, per person. I even train multi-dog households. I don't charge extra. We will most likely in the multi-dog household have to extend the time, which there'll be a fee for that. But if I had a guy with 5 pit bulls, yeah, and he just extended by an hour, it was a lot of work. But I was like, I don't care. I just come in and go, what do you want to achieve? And there's sometimes where I go, that's too much for an hour, but I'll do what I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you do a 12-class program, um, I'm positive we'll get all those things addressed. We'll cover them. And remember, there's realistic expectations, right? I don't advise uh, just putting your face in your dog's face um, for any dog. In this case, it's your own dog, and I know in the past she's allowed you to do it. Uh, the other thing that would be because was she on the couch when you did that?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So that all makes sense to me, right?
What's that?
That all makes sense to me because you're saying she's territorial of the couch, and then you were like, oh yeah, I put my face in her face, and she happened to be on the couch, and I go, if you had not done that, we would have completely avoided that situation.
Yeah, it's when she's on the couch resting.
Yes.
That is like
Yes.
like the my parents know to just like totally stay away from her.
Yes. Yes.
I think my brother was really, really like, she loved him. Like he like would like hug her and, they would play like crazy. And then, she was asleep on the couch in the other home and he just sat down next to her and she nipped him. And
Mhm.
so like,
Was there punctures?
no, it was
No, just a
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all she's done before
Yeah.
even cutting Mike is just,
So even though the behavior to us is deemed like unacceptable, up, pull up, 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 up. Just keep pulling, up, up, and now relax. Um, is she's applying a correction there? Yep, and now relax. She's putting a correction, and she's saying, hey, don't sit on my couch or like
Yeah.
don't bother me while I'm sleeping. But again, if she wanted to, she could have gone further.
yes.
Okay, so obviously we don't want the behavior, but I'm also reading what she's doing as an animal.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, I'm the oldest of 4 kids. If like I was playing video games, my brother's coming like touch. No, like don't touch my controller. Right? It's the same thing, but I didn't like just punch my brother. you know, but dogs they don't have that. They don't have the please leave me alone. I'm trying to take a nap. They don't have that ability. All they have is their mouth. Okay, up on your leash. Yep. Let me have you. You're gonna pull her forward, like this, using your prong. Pull, 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 and then up on your leash. Up, 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 and now relax. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I'll
Looks at me like
there's gonna be
She knows she is. I give it to you because she kind of blew me over a little bit.
there's gonna be limitations in some things.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're realistic. There's certain things that I go, yes, this is perfectly doable, realistic to accomplish. And this is where I go, I cannot make your dog like people putting their face in her face
Yeah,
or whatever. If she doesn't like people coming to the couch when she's on the couch, then I go, you're not allowed on the couch.
yeah.
I think that, yeah, for us, it's just hard to know like what's the right thing to do in those situations.
Sure.
So I think it's really nice to have like even just your feedback.
Sure. And I've had it happen where like when I work with couples, like let's say the husband gets up to use the bathroom and the dog's in the bed, and when the husband comes back, the dog will guard the bed from the husband.
She does that to me.
Yeah. So then I'll tell him like if that's the case, then the dog's not allowed in the bed. And you'd be surprised how many times I have someone go like, but I really want the dog in the bed. I'm like, what you decide at the end of the day is up to you. But if you want to address that problem,
That's how you address
that's how you address the problem. You know? Yes. So, and then at that point I go, that's on you. I'm already giving you the answer. So yeah, bare minimum 6. But that's really kind of cutting off a lot of stuff. 12, we have plenty of space to work all the issues, plus with your parents if they wanted to join in for some hands-on stuff. Um, and then like let's say we got towards the end of the program and you only use like 10 out of 12 classes, and it's been like a year or something, and you're like, what do we do with these 2 classes? I mean, you could always use them in the future if you guys expand your family, right? They don't expire. You just let us know, like, hey, like we're gonna just save these. I've had plenty of clients that were expecting children do that. I've also had other clients turn it into credit, and they'll use it to like daycare or boarding stay or whatever, because it's a service for a service, so that's not a problem. So that you're not going to lose like I have a client who's actually ended up moving in the middle of his program, and he had like 2 classes left over. He had 3. He used one and he credited the other 2 because he was doing a lot of boarding prior to his moving. So that's what he did. Yeah. So I don't have a problem with it. Um, the collar that I would put her on, and Tina will send you the information, is the Dog to Black edition. It's the best collar there is. It runs about 340-ish, 350-ish with tax. They last for years. Okay. My first round of collars that I had lasted me about 10 years before I had to replace them. Okay. It's a 1-mile range, fully waterproof system. Um, you can get it through us or you can get it online. I don't care where you get it from, but I do care you get the correct system. Be careful not to buy them on Chewy because Chewy actually always sends the wrong one or is either not carrying the right one. I've had a lot of clients show up to class with the wrong collar and I go, we got to take that back. And they're charging the price of the actual collar, but the collar they're sending is not the right one. It's like, and yeah, and the collar they're sending is actually like $100 difference in terms of that brand, that model to the one I'm recommending. But Tina will send you that information. When it comes to booking and stuff, she also handles that. She'll you can talk about it, mull it over, email her like, hey Tina, sign us up for 9 or 12 or whatever it is, and if you want to expedite the process a little bit, you can send her your schedules. Okay, send windows of time. Don't do Monday at 2, Wednesday at 3, because it makes it very difficult considering I have so many clients. When you go Saturday, we're free all day. Sunday, 4 to 7, like that's easier to work with because she'll just compare it to my calendar and see what would work best. We're moving pretty soon to training out of Oz Park. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Oz Park. It's the busiest park in Chicago.
That's like by the Palace Marshall.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. On rainy days, we'll relocate to here. Otherwise, we're in the summertime and when the weather's permitting, we'll train at Oz Park, which clients like a lot. It doesn't matter where we train in regards to the reactivity stuff. I'll get it done whether we're training here or over there. But people just like being outside and having the experience of having all these distractions. In some cases, if the reactivity is very bad, the owner might have the class here for the first class, so just not worry about anything. And then the second class will meet at Oz Park. So at least they come in with like a foundation. Or sometimes class 1 will be at Oz Park. It'll be terrible because the reactivity is really bad. Then the second class will relocate here, and then we go back for the third class. Okay, every case is different. I can only take you as far as you're willing to go. Okay, I don't know what levels your dog. Our collars have 127 levels of stimulation in increments of 1, so it's very fine-tuned. It's just a muscle stimulator. So if you guys are familiar with TENS therapy, that's what they use at physical therapist's office, right? It's the same technology. Yeah, it's just a muscle stimulator. It's not electricity. I don't know what your dog's number is going to be, but I'm going to help you find it. But let's say her reactivity, she needs to be corrected at 80 out of 127, and you come back at 40, and I'm like, how'd it go this week? You're like, oh, it was really bad. And I'm going to ask you, how high did you go? And if you tell me 40, I go, well, that's why it was really bad. Okay, that is the greatest thing that holds people back from progress in their training, is they're not willing to go. Yes, but you want to think of it as, remember, dogs bite each other, right? And I like to think of it as a bite on a button. I want the dog to perceive that, just like your prong collar, it's a bite, right? But with this particular bite, I can cut through the reactivity, I can cut through aggression, because the intensity can be firm enough that the dog's like, do I really want to do that again? Okay, everything that we do is step by step and it's logical. But I can, again, only take you as far as you're willing to go, okay? Last thing is, because I see my next client walking up here. Last thing is, in terms of the collar, when does it go away? When you need it, it doesn't. So this means if she's going to be off leash, if she's going to be at a restaurant patio, if you're going to be walking her, chances are you're going to need it. But you're not always using it. It's simply present, okay? Do you guys drive? You go on the expressway? Do you go the speed limit?
Kind of.
Most people don't, right? I don't. That's what we call opportunistic behavior, right? Unless you see a squad car, you're going to probably press the boundaries a bit, right? Same thing for your dog. If that cop on a collar isn't present, they're going to press the boundaries. So when guests come over, you're going to need it,
Yeah.
right? But if your dog is great outside of those contexts, you don't need it. Does that make sense? Anything else?
I saw, sorry, one quick question. I saw that I got the Baskerville.
Yes.
And sometimes that exposure is good.
Mhm.
Would you say that could be good? One thing.
Mhm. Mhm. Hi.
Hi.
So I'm wrapping up a consult. Up on your leash. Is your dog here yet or not yet?
No, I'm waiting for my husband.
Okay, so you can come on in if you want. Just sit to the side here.
Okay, can I just use your restroom?
Yes. Up, up, up. Pull, up, up, up. Keep going up, keep going up, keep going up. Straight up. Straight up. Just up more. Not hard, but just keep going up.
Oh.
Like that. Now relax. So you said muzzle and then socialization?
Yeah.
Yes, that'll help greatly. So I would start conditioning now. You can ask Tina to send you up, 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 keep going straight up. You're gonna just continuously rate, there you go. You can ask Tina, hey, please send us the muzzle videos, and she'll send you a link. It takes you to our website. takes you to our website. Straight up. That has the videos on there. So you can start that process now. Definitely start the process now, because I've had clients treat it like a high school project where they'll postpone it. And then the week or two before we need it, they're trying to do it and the dog's not having it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes, even through positive reinforcement conditioning, the dog just hates the muzzle. So then if you've done all that, by the time we get to the stage of needing that muzzle, pull up, of needing that muzzle, you already done your part. And then we do what's called force conditioning, which is using the e-collar to teach the dog not to fight the muzzle. Okay. But I always recommend condition your dog to the muzzle using food. And then Tina can send you.
We use it for the vet, so she's used to it.
Oh, she's used to it. Okay, cool. Anything else?
That's it.
If you have any questions or forgot to ask anything, please feel free to reach out to Tina. Otherwise, she'll get you guys all booked up and everything. Nothing I've never not heard of before. Pretty typical stuff.
Should we walk her with the muzzle on her neck, or is that just for when she's sitting with us? Like on the bottom part? We usually put it on the top of the prong collar, I mean, sorry.
Oh,
Sorry, I think it's
no, yeah, that's correct. It should be at the top. It's technically too big. Yeah, she should probably be on a 2.25, but it's not going to matter because of remote collar.
Yeah.
But technically speaking, that collar's too big for her. Yeah, yeah. So
On the bottom part of her neck.
it should always be up here.
Oh.
Yeah, but the prongs are too big that her neck is too small.
Yeah.
This is meant for like a dog that's probably like twice her size.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. It's a good collar because you have a Hermit Springer.
Uh-huh.
So the brand is good. The size is a misfit,
Okay.
but it's not going to matter with remote collar. Yeah.
Okay.
You might be able to take off one more because you can see 4 on that side and 3 on this side, and you're always trying to keep it even. So 3 and 3, and it should.
Keep it placed higher.
Yeah.
With the prongs underneath.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. But otherwise, this is fine.
Yeah.
For now. Okay. Anything else?
That's it. Yeah,
Awesome,
thank you
guys.
so much.
If you need anything else, you let us know. Otherwise, Tina will take care of the rest. Okay.